Necromunda is a hive world in Segmentum Solar and a major producer of munitions for the Imperial Guard. Necromunda's forges produce lasguns, autoguns, shotguns, and boltguns, among other weapons. The planet also levies huge numbers of troops for the Imperial Guard, most notably the Necromundan Spiders, as well as other supplies. Necromunda is typical of most hive worlds, its hive cities rife with powerful gangs. The planet's capital is Hive Primus, also known as the Palatine, one of Necromunda's many hive cities. The Hive, the largest on Necromunda, is enormous in size, reaching from the surface to some 10 miles into the air and from surface level to roughly 2.8 miles into the ground, although only the first 1.3 miles are habitable by humans, and possesses a population greater than some worlds. Hive Primus, and the planet as a whole, is ruled over by Lord Gerontius Hellmauer of House Hellmauer. The Hive's houses are in a constant struggle to gain power and control of the Hive. The society of Necromunda is reasonably typical of larger hive worlds. No attempt is made to enforce central administration upon the entire population. Indeed, such a thing would prove impossible on a world where most people remain unrecorded by any authority. Instead, a kind of feudal system has evolved by which individual people owe loyalty to others, who in their turn owe their loyalty to other, increasingly more powerful members of the hierarchy. Among the more stable elements of the population, these loyalties are owed on a family basis, and closely related families all support each other under the hegemony of the most powerful member of their family group. This form of urban feudalism tends to be self-regulating. Weaker clans naturally seek the protection of more powerful neighbors, whose power base then expands until it reaches the limit whereby its numbers and resources are simply too few to allow it to expand further. Where rival clans meet, it is inevitable that their power will be tested in combat, the ability of a clan to exert its power being the only true measure of its influence. The endless feuds between the warrior gangs of these clans are a fundamental part of the workings of Necromunda. Like most hive worlds, Necromunda is home to huge amounts of crime. It might appear that large swaths of Necromunda are anarchic and lawless. This, however, is not true. Necromunda exists only because of its adherence to an ancient canon of rules laid down by the first true lords of the Hellmauer line. Those know now that if Necromunda is to survive, it must be allowed to war with itself. The great web of Necromunda must remain intact, facilitating the murderous competition that drives the houses to ever greater heights of productivity, while at the same time, inter-house conflict is restricted to the proxy wars fought between gangs. But the balance between sanctioned violence and true anarchy is a fine one, preserved by institutions such as the Palanite Enforcers. There are, however, crimes not ignored by imperial technologies, such as heresy or engaging in AI research. These crimes are often dealt with the Adeptus Arbites as opposed to local enforcers. Likewise, some are not content to merely rob settlements or gilder caravans without the benefits of a clan house blessing. These nefarious souls are the true criminals of Necromunda, and their crimes are crimes not against the decency or morality of human existence, but against the absolute authority of the houses themselves. It is rumored that long ago, the Piscean Xenos race were the first to arrive on Necromunda, which at the time still had large oceans. It is said they were both cunning and violent and viciously resisted humanity's conquest of the planet years later. According to the legends of House Delek, the Pisceans vanished shortly before Necromunda became consumed by industry and war. The Delak believed the Pisceans did not leave Necromunda, but instead took refuge in the subterranean oceans near the planet's core as humanity first began to arrive. Humans settled Necromunda 15,000 years ago as a mining and manufacturing colony. It used to be the capital of the Arrhenius continuity, a small empire of humans ruled by techno-nobility who submitted to the Imperium during the Great Crusade. During the Great Crusade, the planet was attacked by unknown Xenos, arriving without warning from the system's warp gates, leaving only the capital Arrhenius, which was then renamed to Necromunda. In M30, the planet was liberated from an Orc presence by the Imperial Fists, establishing the close ties between Necromunda and the Chapter. According to another point of view, it was not Orcs but rather a brief defiance of the former Necromunda's human colony against the coming of the Imperium that unleashed a war that laid Hive cities to ash. Necromunda was apparently devastated during the Horus Heresy, and the Ironhead squats were vital in rebuilding the planet. The ensuing millennia have not changed its basic purpose very much. Necromunda is still a world of mines, factories, refineries, and processing plants. The planet is a vast powerhouse of industry, making thousands and thousands of different items for use throughout nearby planetary systems. In the aftermath of the Great Rift's creation during the 13th Black Crusade, a worldwide rebellion broke out on the planet. However, it quickly ended sometime later, once word reached the Hive World that Lord Commander Robert Guilliman's Indomitus Crusade was soon arriving to put down the rebellion. The Hive cities of Necromunda retain the ancient names of the cities and settlements from which they grew. There are several thousand hives on the planet, some massive and populated by billions, while others are desolate and inhabited only by the dead. Each hive spire is also known by a local name. There are approximately 1,000 hive clusters on the planet. Each cluster is a group of up to a dozen or so individual hive cities, all linked by a network of overground travel tubes and subterranean passages. On Necromunda, time is measured differently depending on where you reside within the hive cities. In the upper spire, closer to the Imperium of mankind, traditional Imperial Standard units like hours, days, and months are used. However, for those in the lower levels, where life revolves around factories and habs, time is marked by 3 key measures: seasons, cycles, and shifts. Unlike the Imperial Standard, there is no specific unit for a year on Necromunda. The passage of time is marked by the cyclical nature of the seasons, where one great cycle seamlessly flows into the next without the need for a defined annual measurement. For the people of the planet, each cycle resembles the last, reinforcing a perpetual sense of continuity in their lives. Nothing which can contribute to the planet's output has been left untouched. From the tops of the highest mountains to the depths of the oceans, the wealth of Necromunda has been ripped out. Mountains have been reduced to rubble for the ore they contain. Oceans have been turned into little more than chemical sludge ponds. The once fertile plains have disappeared under huge urban developments of great housing and factory blocks, forming new ranges of man-made mountains as tall as the long-since flattened natural land features. These huge towering urban complexes are known as city hives, or simply as hives, and their individual peaks or towers are called city spires or spires. A close group of hives is known as a hive cluster. Between the hives, industrial ash deserts cover the planet's surface with a mobile, corrosive skin. Over this desert lies a cloud layer of airborne pollution, so that the great spires of the city hives rise from a drifting mist of tainted vapor like islands out of the sea. Despite being reduced to such a hellish state, Necromunda is still a valuable world to the Imperium. Although little of Necromunda's original resources remain, the waste heaps of previous generations have become a new source of riches. Necromunda lives on the accumulated wastes of its past. Its people have learned to scavenge, reclaim, and recycle everything in order to squeeze a living from their exhausted world. Necromunda's population has increased well beyond the planet's capacity to support it. As a consequence, it is wholly reliant on synthetic and imported food. Each hive has recycling plants that convert used organic matter into synthetic food. Real food is imported from off-planet, but is an expensive luxury which only the most wealthy and prestigious Necromundans can afford. There are probably more people on Necromunda than have ever lived in the entire history of Terra up until the end of M2. An attempted census of Trasia Hive 4,000 years ago revealed an estimated population of 1 billion in the upper habitation levels alone. No further attempt has been made to count Necromunda's population in Trazior or any other of the several thousand hives on the planet.